Hello, hello. Welcome this week to Kieran, Pearson, and Friends. We are on the Voluntary Virtues Network. Uh, Today we have our guest, Jessica Cologne, who was here last week as well. Hello, Jessica. And we have,
Hello.
Hey
and we
Jessica,
have Daniel King
how
uh,
y'all doing?
from the Sunshine State.
Yeah.
So this show really is to focus its attention on helping people. Oh shit! Hello, welcome this week. Rookie mistake. I did it again. All right, I fixed it this time a little quicker. Anyway, uh,
Recorded right now? Am I being
no,
recorded?
it's recording and playing live, so we have the live broadcast on YouTube, so people
Oh,
can actually watch
people
the
are watching me right now? No,
conversation as it's happening
I didn't
right
sign
now.
papers. I didn't sign permission slips and shit. I gotta call my mom.
You better call your lawyer. So anyway, we're this show is really to promote anarchism. Basically, we're going to start from the basics, a basic introduction. The slant of this show, the desire of this show, is really to be able to reach people of color. Not that necessarily the things that we're going to talk about on this show are just about or for people of color. They actually apply to all of humanity. But I wanted to make it so that there's some appeal for people of color to come and listen to this show. I feel like we're sort of an underserved uh, community when it comes to these concepts. It doesn't matter either way. Eventually we'll probably be all sold anarchism, and you'll be buying your freedom, so to speak, sooner or later. But I really want to get these ideas and principles out there in a way that's palatable for audiences of color, because I think that they're hugely important. Uh, and we talked about last week. Jessica and I discussed our journeys into becoming anarchists, and so this week we're going to have Dan introduce himself. I haven't actually heard Dan call himself an anarchist, but I'm pretty sure he is. So Dan, we're gonna have
On labels and those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when girls are like, "Oh, well, we're together, right?" And it's like, "Yeah, we're together." You guys know I love you, right?
well, you can't ride in the middle of the road forever, and
I know.
Stefan Molyneux quoted Confucius, uh, the beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name. So it helps for people to be able to understand who and what you are, to just give them a buzzword and let them figure it out from there. So, and you may be sort of apprehensive about calling yourself an anarchist, but that's fine. You still are.
No,
Would you?
no. I'll go on record. I'm definitely an anarchist, but I don't use the word a lot, right? Like I don't say anarchist a lot because people, as soon as you say anarchy, what do people do?
They freak out. Of course.
Oh my god, right? So
Right.
ease it in.
I just wanted to say, I think that's one of the important reasons why this needs to be discussed, and why the actual meaning of what anarchy and anarchism is needs to become more mainstream, because basically everything we see out there, especially in the mass media, it's completely the opposite of what it actually is.
Right.
Movies like The Purge, anarchism, for example, which I don't think it's come out yet, but from what I've seen, I'm gonna watch it just so I can, critique it properly. But if that's not propaganda, I don't know what is.
I mean, I see so much like everything that comes out of Hollywood for the most part is like propaganda, propaganda, propaganda,
Pretty
propaganda.
much.
Even like the
Of
Batman
course,
movies.
Hollywood is
He wants, what does he want? Anarchy. Ah, no, Batman, save us from anarchy. It would be so bad if we were all just trading and selling things freely.
it would be bad for people like Batman, who would not get all the huge government subsidies that allows him to beat up on poor people who they stole the money from in the first place and who are now
Listen,
poor.
bro, Batmobile does not run off peace and love.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It runs off statism, but nobody's willing to talk about that. Anyway, So, so Dan, Jessica and I did a brief intro of ourselves last week. I'd love for you to sort of tell the audience about who you are, like, where you were raised, were your parents together, were they divorced, were you raised religiously, were your parents political, and sort of your coming into anarchism, how, talk about your development and when you became an anarchist, sort of like, your life story of anarchy.
All right, yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me, Jess. Lovely to be next to you in this tiny box at the bottom of the screen. Can't think of any. Well, now I'm below you, which is also not a bad place to be, if you know what I'm saying. But seriously, guys, and for those of you who are watching at home or wherever you are, these are two of my very not only esteemed colleagues but personal friends, and I'm really happy to be here doing this with you guys. So thank you for inviting me.
Wow, thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. Don't. Oh shit, this is on record, isn't it?
It's all right.
Aside from the tapes, I'll call my lawyer. I gotta talk to this dude anyways. But anyways, yeah, I'm from Florida originally. I'm really behind this whole thing we're doing, by the way, even though I'm the token white guy on the show. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. I own my role. We're trying to get this out to everyone, but specifically, Kieran, you're right. We're trying to reach the colored community, and I happen to love black girls. So the more of their screens I'm on, dude, let's get me out there to the masses. The masses. I'm trying to push this product, but yeah. Anyways, I'm originally from Florida. I'm home. I came home for a long weekend right now, which is why we got the childhood memories, the Budweiser girls up on the wall. Still a classy touch. See, I'm 24, so I think that makes me the youngest out of the group. I'm the rookie in here. So yeah, my parents divorced when I was 2. Never really knew them together. My dad's kind of like loud and obnoxious. My mom is super conservative. And where I am in Florida, it's kind of like northwest Florida, the Panhandle. For those of you who are familiar with like Destin, Panama City spring break. Kieran, I see you got your beads on. How'd you get those? Spring break in Panama?
You don't want to know.
So yeah, this is it's called the Redneck Riviera. So like my family, they all have southern accents. We're in the central time zone. It's this kind of like forgotten part of Florida that always votes Republican. We're that part of the state. So
not that it matters, how you vote in statism.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, you're voting for statism.
I'm just giving you an idea of the populace. You know what I'm saying? Like people I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Boys. Boy.
Right. I got you.
So anyways, did high school, public school. It's the only one in town. That's kind of what everyone does. My mom brought me up in the church, but by the time I was 18 in school, like I kind of moved away from that. Just didn't really appeal to me on some level. So I moved away. Didn't really have that much reason behind it. Got up to Boston for school. Was going to play tennis at a little Division III school south of Boston in Quincy, Eastern Nazarene College, which is a tiny Christian school. But like the Nazarenes in general, like aside from just being, of the Christian faith, they're like a very, very like strict denomination. Denomination, I guess, is that what they are? A denomination?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sect.
So they're sect. Yeah, right. They're sect, denomination, branch, whatever. They're really a bunch of tight asses. Like they weren't even allowed to watch movies in theaters till like a few years ago. Like there's no dancing. There is no dancing, right? Which, as you guys know, that is for me. That's gonna be a problem, So I stayed there for a year, but the important thing to take away from that part of the story is that I got out of the Southeast, which before I went up there. I'd never been north of Virginia. So that gives you an idea. Never crossed the Mason-Dixon. So being in Boston kind of like gave me a little taste of what the outside world was like outside of my bubble. So anyways, I ended up moving back to Boston, dropped out of that school. That shit sucked. finished my undergrad at college, and when it was time to take out loans, I dropped out because I just something didn't sit right with me about, signing my life away for several $1,000s that I didn't want to be in school anyways. Like, I had a bad experience in college, so I wasn't, totally stoked on signing off on those loans to do that. So I started teaching tennis. I teach tennis, by the way, guys. I have been doing that for the last, 4 or 5 years, and kind of, through just doing kind of my own independent research about, what's going on. It started a lot with my school stuff, first with religion. Religion didn't seem right. Did a little bit of independent research, which I imagine is very similar to most other anarchists out there, is having to do some independent research, because as we're all well aware now, the media isn't exactly making this information easily accessible. So if you're not taking some initiative on your own, you're fucked. And as you guys are also probably well aware, what people are learning in college is not what's actually going on. Like, you're learning how to work for corporate America, but you're not really learning what the fuck is up. So anyways, being in Boston, meeting people, hearing about, their lives in different parts of the world and stuff, I'm like, wait a second. People are doing things so differently than I'm accustomed to doing them, and the things that I've been told are correct and the right way to do things. What if this isn't the right way to do things? And then from there, how far down does the rabbit hole go? You just keep chasing the tail and keep chasing the tail, both literally and metaphorically. And yeah, here we are, right? So I don't know if that's enough of a summary. Oh, the tennis club I work at is the first African American owned and operated nonprofit tennis club in the United States, which is cool because, one, I'm if I'm not legitimately a black person at this point, I'm at least an honorary black person. Kieran, can I get some?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you have eaten more neck bones, collard greens, and ham hocks than at least 70% of Boston's black population.
Oh, Boston's for sure. For sure.
It's legit.
But,
it's undeniable, people.
Yeah, bro, we were eating, I won't even, yeah, man. When me and Sarah came over, and you're like, hey, want some watermelon? Of course I want some watermelon, dude.
Everybody likes watermelon.
What am I going to say? No? So, anyways, yeah, just kind of stumbled on Anarchy.
How did that happen? Was it part of your research? Was it somebody introduced you to the concept, or were you just online one day, look at fucking elephant tube, and then you happen to stumble on a video that said
it usually doesn't work that way. I usually go online looking for other things and then stumble to elephant tube.
Okay.
Not elephant tube in the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, elephant tube's the end of the line, dude.
Right.
Wipe off your keyboard and keep browsing. But
talk about wiping your computer clean.
As it turns out for me, and I feel like for a lot of people, if they were to actually give it some serious consideration, most of the principles of anarchy I already kind of held in my core system of beliefs. So in talking with you and Jess, and just kind of being introduced to anarchy as a legitimate option, and seeing that there's a network of people out there who are actually about it, I started researching a little bit on my own, and it's holy shit, this actually speaks to kind of what I'm all about, because like I said, I made several moves in my life, not always the best advised, right? Dropping out of college, for example, or packing up and moving to Boston kind of on a whim. But it was always things that I felt that voice, right, that you have that's always you should be doing. I always just kind of listened to that. And that's kind of led me here, and when I found this kind of this group of people who are anarchists, this circle, and hearing them kind of talk about the things that were important to them, freedom, people just being able to be people and not being forced into this shitty system. I mean, for those of you who've seen The Matrix and Morpheus gives that thing about the splinter in the back of your mind, that really, really spoke to me. You know, just kind of like going through the world and seeing the way that things work. Something's always seemed off. You know, always. And now I think I kind of have more of an answer for what that thing is. And it's big. It's big.
I mean, or it's really small, you know. I mean, because really, the thing that you're calling big is statism, and you know, statism lives in the hearts and the minds, and I don't actually like to use hearts in the minds of people. And what statism is a very small group of people who have, you know, through their violence, created a monopoly on the initiation of force. So, I mean, really, it's just a group of dudes with guns who basically get away with doing whatever the fuck they want.
Right, but it goes deeper than that. Just because like we are brought into this through our statist parents. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
not,
No, I mean, no. And that's part of the issue as well, is that, you know, these men have created a means by which they control the minds of the people through public indoctrination, of, you know, the public fool system, as I like to call it.
I guess the solution, right, anarchy or the lack of a state, is simple, but the way that they've kind of woven it is big and complex. You know, the way that it's become so accepted and normal, right? Because anarchy seems like so alien to most people, right? And how did it get to that point? Because in principle, it's not that. It's not this terrible thing. So there's a lot that's gone into turning it into this, you know, monster in people's minds.
Well, I mean, if you look at 1984, there's a concept, or Animal Farm is the concept of double speak and new speak, and basically what they both mean is that you take a word and you make it mean the complete opposite of what it is, so that when people speak it, it creates this cognitive dissonance in their mind that, you know, this word actually is something bad when it ultimately is something good, like capitalism, like anarchism. Specifically, those two resonate for me as having fallen hugely victim to the state's, you know, ability to control what words mean. If you can control the meaning of words, you control the way people think. And so, you know, and you talked about earlier listening to that little voice in your head. And I think that so much of our childhood is about the powers that be, the system, you know, indoctrinating us not to listen to that little voice. That voice is telling, this doesn't seem right. You go into church when you're 4 or 5 and you're saying all this crazy, weird ritual. You're like, this isn't right. This is weird as fuck. Like, I don't want to be here. You know, when you're in school and, you know, you first get there and you have to leave your parents, and you're freaking the fuck out. Like, where are my parents? Where is anybody I know? They've left me alone in a room with all of these people I do not know. Granted, some of them are kids, but they're acting weird as fuck. They're all standing in rows and lines, and like, this is nothing like I've experienced my whole life. What is really going on here? What is this all about? Why do they have me standing up and saying this prayer to this flag every day? I don't know what half the words mean. I just, you know, do it because this is what we're supposed to do. And they teach you to not listen to that little voice. You know, your parents will, you know, especially when you're of color, they'll hit you, hey, listen to the adult. The adult told you what to do. You know, which is, you know, why I think in America in general, a lot of kids end up getting, you know, molested and fondled, is because, you know, they're told, oh, listen to the parent, listen to the adult. They'll, you know, they told you what to do, and it's just like, okay, I'll pull my pants down. And
you say so.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't, I'll get in trouble because you're an adult. You told me what to do. And last time I didn't do what an adult told me what to do, I got in serious trouble. So, you know, we're conditioned not to listen to that little voice, and you know, it's impressive, man, to hear you say that you listened to that voice and just went with it. You know, so many of us fall victim to, you know, what we're told to do. We go to college.
Yeah, man. For me, that was I was about to say that was when it was the biggest, where it's like, yo, just don't do this. Just don't do this. Was when I had the paperwork and I could assign for the loans and to continue in school, and I'm like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do, but something doesn't seem right about it.
I wish I would have had that wisdom when I was, going to college, and I kind of talked about this last week a little bit, but, I basically signed up for 4 years just to please my parents, and it wasn't me, like, feeling like I had to do it because they told me to do it. It was because it was so important to them, and I did care what they thought at that point.
What's up?
So,
My fault, guys.
no, it's okay.
You know I'm
You're back.
on the celly, so I'm just blowing up. People are trying to get us stuck being popular, but go on.
No, I was just saying, I don't know if you heard anything what I was saying, but I was saying that I wish when I was going to college that I would have had the wisdom that you had, because I went for somebody else. I didn't go for myself. I honestly, at that point, I really had no idea what direction I wanted my life to take. I did know that I cared what my parents thought, so I went for them. Anyways, I just wanted to add to what you were saying. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, that was, and it's tough to have that conversation with people and explain that, because they'll be like, oh, you're just trying to find, like, the silver lining for dropping out. And, like, I feel like you guys for sure, and anyone who might be watching this, knows people with degrees from good schools who are fucking idiots. You know what I'm saying? Like,
look,
fucking. I'm allowed to say fucking idiots on the show, right?
College was a joke when they were passing degrees out to the people I went to college with. I was like, this is some bullshit. These people, most of these people are staggering idiots at best.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the thing. That's what they want. They want you to be able to follow instructions.
Right. Of course that's what college is about. But that's what most of it is about. It's just how well do you follow instructions? How well do you do the feedback loop of, okay, you're not doing what it is that we want you to do. Reset. We try again. Are you able? They test you on whether or not you're able to do what it is they want you to do. If not, they'll just flunk you, as we like to say, and then you repeat the class until you learn what it is that they want you to learn. And it's never any specific lesson. It's your level of being able to
follow instructions.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
How good of a slave are you?
You got to be a self-sustaining human. They definitely don't teach you how to be completely independent and not need somebody for shelter, not need somebody for food, not need somebody for pretty much every basic necessity of life. So, it's great that, like, all this higher learning, the literature and these books and these stories, like, all of that does have its value and its place in the context promoting to grow and develop and experience new things. But really, it's more Hemingway or learning how to build your own house, learning how to make a well, learning how to purify water.
Right.
Learning how to, I don't know, turn animal shit into a fertilizer.
You don't even have to do anything. It just is. It just comes out that way.
To actually live and be free and be independent are treated like they're worthless.
Right, but as you guys are well aware, colleges are not in the business of teaching people how to be free.
Yeah, no doubt. So, speaking of freedom, speaking of anarchism, what this show is about, today's show, let's get into what exactly is anarchism. Does anybody want to break down what the etymology of the word is, or?
Would you first break down what etymology is?
Okay. That's a good point. No, etymology just means the root history of the word, like where the word originated.
Country of origin? Can you use it in this
language of origin? Time of origin? So anarchy comes from the word anarchos, which is a Greek word, which means an means without, and archos means rulers. So without rulers, and what anarchy means is just that you have no rulers. Some people have taken it to mean no gods, and not only are there no human rulers, but there's also no rulers in a sort of celestial metaphysical religious sense, if those words go together.
Brother, you got him right there.
All right, so no masters, no gods. You often see that as part of the logos of anarchy or anarchism. But anarchism being what it is, meaning that there's no rulers, there's no one to say that you cannot believe in a God. And actually, interestingly enough, some of the most anarcho people I've met have been Christians. And I think I've met like one anarcho Muslim, but there aren't very many Muslims in the U.S. So that is the root of the word. The word began to be used, I believe, in the 20th century, the early 20th century, when people were really sort of picking up the philosophy of freedom. Groups like the Wobblies started picking up the word and using it.
The Wobblies?
The Wobblies. They were
of the wobble?
Not that group.
Oh.
Now the Wobbles is a dance in the South, right?
They're the ones with the multicolored suits on the kids show?
No. I think those Teletubbies.
Oh, Teletubbies, right?
I don't know.
The original anarchists.
So the word has, as we know, has sort of changed in meaning because of people conflating it to mean chaos, which if there's no rulers, people automatically will assume that there's no rules, right? Which is not the case with anarchism. And anarchism is basically the political philosophy of putting anarchy into a sort of a way of life. If there's no rulers, then you're also assuming that you yourself are never going to act as a ruler over someone, and all the interactions that you have with people will be peaceful and voluntary.
Right. Now, Kieran, I know that I'm not sure exactly what you guys covered last week, but I feel like I would really like for you to speak on this again, because I think that most people, this is where they get hung up, right? Because people say, and at least in my conversations with people, it's like, oh, if no one's in charge, it's just going to be chaos, right? Like if we're conditioned to believe that we need someone telling us what to do, or else all these people are just going to fuck up and it's going to ruin things, right? So can you explain the difference between not having rulers and not having rules, or maybe not?
Your camera froze. So I'll go on the premise of the fact that you asked what sort of why that is kind of an impossibility or not likely to happen in anarchism or in a scenario in which there's no rulers. Everyone is in a sense a ruler. If no one's a ruler, everyone is a ruler, right? And so if I decided to aggress upon you as someone who, say, liked your watch and I wanted your watch for myself, right? And I attempted to steal your watch using force. It wouldn't be out of the question for me to be assaulted by you because you're using a protective force in order to defend what it is that you have, which is completely fine to do. And what prevents sort of there being sort of chaos and pandemonium in anarchy is that everyone will be able to defend themselves. You have now where you have a state, that's a gun control state, like say a New York or Illinois or even a Massachusetts, where people don't have access to firearms readily, and there might be rapes and robberies that happen because people do have, and murders for that matter, that happen that may not have happened if more people were able to be armed. So it does not mean that there's necessarily going to be chaos.
Right. I feel like, what is that? Am I out?
No, you're here.
What was that noise?
You're
okay.
Here.
It keeps making that and every time it does that, I disappear.
It did it on the last one. It did it for
Okay.
your last call.
But my home, right, the home I'm at right now in Florida, which, again, for all intents and purposes, just think of this as like a home in Alabama, because that's basically what it is, right, just with beaches. We have 14, when I was here, we had 14 guns in the house. Now, some of these are like old. Like we have a bolt-action single-shot 22 that was my grandfather's, right? That's not really doing any damage to anyone. Like, Kieran, I could shoot your big ass a dozen times with that, and you're still coming after me. You know? Things like a BB gun.
I've heard of people using long rifle 22s to take down deer. It's not advised, but, you know, I've heard of it happening.
I mean, shit, if you put that on the right spot, it's stopping anything. But it's a small caliber gun, right? But it's crazy because that's not abnormal for this area. And you would be amazed at how few people get shot here, right? And it's one of those things that I spend a lot of time in Boston. Kieran, you're speaking about the laws in Massachusetts, the gun laws in Massachusetts, and it's crazy because I tell people that story about, oh, my family has a lot of guns, and they're like, oh, are you crazy fucking rednecks? Like, you can't have that here. People would get shot all the time. People wouldn't be as willing to pull out a gun and open fire if they know that the citizens are well armed. You know, like, you just don't do it here. Like, you'd be a fucking idiot. You would be a fucking idiot to come in someone's house with a gun here and think you're not going to get shot. Like, I can't even fathom an armed robbery happening here. You know, like, it just doesn't
happen. I mean,
like, bro, you're going to get shot. Like, unless you, like, it's not even an armed robbery. Like, you might as well say, I'm looking for a gunfight.
Or I'm looking to get shot.
Yeah, like, or I'm prepared to shoot people to steal these things and get shot myself. And people don't want that. You know, like, you don't want to get shot. It doesn't matter if you want to steal things or not. Like, do you want to steal them bad enough to get blown apart? Like, people don't want that. And guess what? People won't even have to carry their guns around. Like, you just know it. It's unspoken. People are peaceful. People are friendly. But you fucking well know better. You just don't fuck with people.
Right, and most people are good. I think we've, you know, again, by the teachings of the powers that be through the media, through movies, have been taught that, oh, everybody's out to get you, and, you know, it's only because of us that, you know, we protect you.
Right.
And so,
keep you safe.
right, you know, even though we are the same people who, you know, in theory could be out to get you, but, you know, we're the few righteous people. It's the complete opposite of how everything is. It's you know, most people are good, and the very few people that, you know, you think are good, who are serving as the police and as the politicians, they're actually the psychopaths of our society. You know, psychopathy it runs about 7% of any human population, and, you know, I think most psychopaths end up wanting to be in positions of power, and what greater positions of power to be in to be a politician than to be a cop, to be a DA. Who doesn't give a fuck? You know, they will lock people up for years and years and years for victimless crimes just to advance themselves politically so that then they can become a judge.
I mean, their job is to try to lock people up.
No, they
you know?
do it quite. They don't try; they do it quite efficiently. Really good at it, and most people have been conditioned to just go into court and let it happen. So again, in anarchy, or in a system of anarchism, or a state of anarchism, which is an oxymoron, but just follow me. There really wouldn't be any means by which, you know, someone could wield that kind of power over you. All people would be, you know, equal as far as their rights and abilities, and everyone would be responsible for their actions. So, you know how you might have a cop who could kick in your door, and it could be the wrong house, and they shoot your dog, and this, that, and the third, and they don't have to pay any penalties or fines. They don't have to pay to repair your house, and, you know, nobody's going to jail for shooting your dog and you know, causing damage to your property, etc.
God forbid you can stop them.
Right, or you right. So, so because the state has a monopoly over the court system, they're not going to even try a cop. They're not going to put him on a stand or you know, make it even a case. The DA isn't going to prosecute him for doing what the judges told them to do, because the judge is telling the cop to do that to bring the DA victims that the DA can put through the prison system to give to the judge. So then the judge and the DA and the cops all look like they're doing all of this great work. It's a synergistic clusterfuck of statism, of psychopathy, and most people don't see it. They just think, hey, you shouldn't have had that 20 grams of marijuana, and they put everything in fucking grams in this country, and they know that most Americans are too stupid to understand how much a gram is and how much a gram of marijuana is.
I sent it to my friend. It was the most interesting man in the world, and the top of it said, "I don't always use the metric system." The bottom said, "But when I do, I'm buying drugs."
It's true. It's true. I mean, well, actually, I should say most Americans actually do understand the metric system. They know what the fuck grams look like. Yeah, so they actually probably understand that better than they understand how much things are in the standard. So.
But yeah, man. I mean, they're not gonna prosecute cops when they fuck up, and that's what I was trying to explain to my mom, since I've been home, of course. Like, get to have this talks with your parents, and I was telling her about going and paying taxes and pennies and things like that. She's like, "Oh, well, it's not this person's fault, right? They're just working it us, or right." And I'm like, "Look, Mom, they're all connected, right? So while maybe this cop, when he's at home, is a nice guy and a good dad and whatever, he's working for a fucking evil group that does bad things. You know, he can be as well-intentioned as he wants to be, but he's enforcing laws that he has no control over making. You know, he has no say in. He's required to do his job. And as long as he's employed there, you can assume that he's doing his job. And if he's doing his job, he's an asshole."
Right. His job is to throw people in cages for victimless crimes, for the most part. I actually saw in Florida, in Miami-Dade, which I know you're very far from, where the police are doing stings in order to arrest people for using Lyft, which is an app that allows you to do a car sharing. Basically, somebody has a car, and you use the app, and they come and pick you up and take you where they're going, and you pay them through the app, I believe is how it works. And so...
Fucking criminals.
So they're doing fucking things to get these people, and it's like they're spending tax dollar money on the lowest possible hanging fruit, which, they're not even criminals, man. These are just people.
What are they claiming is the basis of the crime? Like unsafe driving? Like, what is it?
Probably some kind of insurance or like liability, or you're supposed to have.
I think it was about them not being registered as like taxis or whatever. But that's the point, is that the cops will do these kind of things in order to
because taxi drivers are so safe, right?
Yeah, no, but they've paid their portion to the state, so they're good to go.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it always comes down to dollar signs.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And so in understanding anarchism, I think it's very appropriate that we talk about what is the complete opposite of anarchism, and that's statism. It's either, and this is literally how it is. There's a dichotomy. Either you are an anarchist, someone who believes that all human interactions should be voluntary, free of the initiation of force, free of coercion, or you are a statist, someone who believes that the state, these group of men with guns, should have the ability to say and dictate to everyone what it is that they have to do, and are willing to use force to enforce even the most arbitrary of rules that they deem or decree from the mountaintop. So that is what statism is. So either you're a statist or you're an anarchist, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that the dichotomy is really just that clear. You can't say, oh, I'm a libertarian, or I'm a minarchist, so I'm kind of an anarchist. It's like, no. If you want government in any shape, way, shape, or form, then you are statist, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I heard the noise again. Was that me again? I'm still here?
No, you're here.
All right, so I was just in the middle of wagging my finger. I want to speak to that. You're not wrong. You're right. But in my dealings with other people, you know how when you're talking to people, you have to be so tactful, right? Especially when you're talking politics or religion or anything like that, right? Because people just jump on it. Is I point out to people, talking to about my American friends, right? What did our founding fathers found this country on, right? Because they were not perfect people, but as far as government went, like these guys had some decent ideas, right? Or
like raping their slaves.
Yeah.
They're pretty awful. Genociding Indians. Yeah, you're right.
Right. That's not the governance part that I was speaking to, but it was founded on limited government, right? That was the concept that they were going for, was limited government. Now, why did they want to limit government is the question you have to ask yourselves, right? Like, these men who were founding a nation or trying to found a nation wanted to limit government. That was their primary concern, was limiting government, right? So why? That's the question that people have to ask themselves. Why would limiting government be important? And then when you ask yourself that question, the answer you come up with is all these terrible things that government's done historically. That's why you have to limit government. And then the next question is, why would you want any of it? Right? That's just kind of the logic path that you would follow. And I feel like that's a really good way of kind of explaining it to people. Is like, yo, people have known that you don't want a lot of this to begin with. So once you can establish that and they agree with that, then it's, why do you want any of this? Why wouldn't you just want to do everything yourself? So, sorry, I just wanted to interject that for people who maybe, because like I said, I've been at home talking to my old friends and my family and shit. Like, this is stuff that I'm going through right now as we speak.
Yeah, no, and it's always fun, and I mean fun in the most sarcastic sense.
Oh, you guys are having fun. You had your fun now?
Yeah, no, trying to talk to your family and friends about sort of these very important concepts is just not fun at all. But maybe that's another show. So anarchism. Is there anything that we haven't sort of covered?
Well, I actually have a little story that might be an example on how people in communities actually are practicing anarchism and they don't even know it. So the story that I was told happened a while ago, so I'm kind of fuzzy on the details, but apparently this is something that's pretty common in the Haitian community. So what happens is you have a number of people, usually small, let's say like between 3 to 5 people. And every month, each of those people deposits, I don't know if it's into a bank or if somebody's actually holding hard cash, but each of those people deposits a fixed amount of money. Let's say each of them does $5,000. So what the system is intended to do is help people get out of debt or make big purchases. So each month, let's say 3 people each deposit $5,000. So the pot has $15,000. So for, let's say, this month, I get the $15,000. Then I do, I pay whatever debt, I purchase whatever I'm trying to purchase, blah, blah, blah. Next month, Kieran gets it. Then the following month, Dan gets it. This is a way for people to have access to larger amounts of money. And they bypass banks. They bypass, having to pay interest on a loan, for example. They bypass having to actually leave a paper trail of information. I'm not suggesting that this money is used for bad things or illegitimate things for that matter. It's a way to have access to a large amount of money without needing to have, let's say, good credit to get a loan. Or for somebody who is currently illegal in this country, they might not be able to actually have the proper identification to have a bank account to deposit this money and have access to it when they need it. So like I said, this is something that actually, it's very common in the Haitian community. I'm sure other people do something similar to this, but the way it was explained to me, it seemed like it was actually like this cultural thing that It's just been going on for a long time, and it kind of hit me like, that's brilliant. Why don't more people do this? And I know there's, trust issues as far as like, if one person is actually holding the pot for the month and they just like don't put in their part of the money for the next month and just take the money. So, I mean, of course, there has to be ways to make sure that people are keeping true to their word as far as like this contract goes. But like I said, I thought this was amazing. It helps everybody involved, everybody.
Right, and even with that, there's a level of personal accountability. Like if I take off with the money, you guys are gonna feel some kind of way towards me, right? And you can do something about that. When the bank goes under, and loses all your shit, who's
nothing you can really do.
Like whose legs are you breaking then?
Absolutely.
And not even that you need to break legs. I mean, in small insular communities like newly immigrated groups, if you fuck up, if your name becomes mud, your name becomes mud with everyone. And so doing that, you completely mess up your opportunity to even have that happen again, and you'll probably be ostracized from a very small community and sort of be left as a pariah until you make amends for what it is that you've done, which could mean that you might not get access to a woman to be with as far as your group or your community is concerned, or you might not get any work or jobs or any of that, because people will be like, hey, I heard what you did to Jean-Pierre, and we ain't fucking with you no more.
That's true, though. I mean, Jean-Pierre, especially in small, tight-knit communities, that kind of information travels like fire. I mean, you fuck up once, basically everybody knows about it, and people don't forget those kind of things, especially when you're dealing with issues of money and personal trust. Once you break that, it's almost impossible to make it whole again. I mean, somebody might give you a second chance, but it's a hesitant second chance because you're already fucked up.
I mean, it's crazy because before, taking out all these loans and shit was commonplace. This is kind of the way that things works. You would borrow money from people who you knew had money, and it was kind of like, do you guys remember? And maybe you've heard your grandparents talk about this back when your word used to mean something. Right? Right?
No doubt.
Can you imagine?
No, I mean your word still means something. It's just now we have different means by which your word actually means something. I like to think of something like an eBay, for example, as my example of something that for me connotes anarchism. Or I can give another example, Android, but I'll use eBay for right now because you brought up your word meaning something. If you do or don't do something, if you put up a product on eBay and you say it's this, that, and the third, and the person who gets it, it isn't in agreement with what it is that you said, you purchased, then they'll write you a bad review, a couple bad reviews, and your years and years of hard work on eBay are for naught.
Right.
And it's just that simple. Now, granted, you could have a competitor who will go online and try to make purchases and try to make your name mud. But ultimately, if you just say, you know what, I figured out that this person is doing this, that they have no purchases, they'll make a purchase for me, and they'll make it look like I really didn't sell them anything proper, and they're fucking up my rating. What you can do is just not sell to that person. You have a right to choose who you sell to or not.
Right, and that's the
from
thing.
What I understand.
Sorry, Kieran, go ahead.
And eBay does all of that without government. eBay acts as its own private, in a sense, government. People understand they voluntarily came to that site to use it in order to do transactions. No one was forced to do it.
That works, if I'm not mistaken, with eBay, that works both ways, because I have actually, if memory serves right, I recall getting reviewed as a purchaser which means, how fast I provided payment information after a bid, how quickly my payment went through. And this is, I think I bought a couple of cell phones for my parents or something, and I was actually reviewed as a purchaser. So if you actually mess with somebody's money transaction on the other end, that will affect your credibility on eBay as well.
And
exactly right.
my thing for making a lot of these things work, anarchism, eBay, just life in general, and I know I haven't talked to you guys as much about this specifically, I'm kind of developing my own little theory here, all this stuff revolves around community. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a group of people who are, like, not idiots, you know what I'm saying? And are, like, capable of, like, having reasonable human interactions, but, like, the way that things are set up now is we've kind of tried to remove community from lifestyle, you know? Like, we don't really...
But here's the thing about even community. eBay is a community, right? And so on an eBay community, you said what?
It is a community. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. eBay is a community.
Right. But here's the thing: is that it's a legal community. You sign a contract when you open up an eBay account. You have to check the box. I agree to the terms of the user agreement of eBay. And you check and you sign, you click approve, and now you're officially a part of the community. You actually have to sign the quote-unquote social contract in order to be a part of the eBay society. And at any point in time, you can leave the eBay society and not be a part of it anymore. And you don't have to pay anything to get out. Unlike here, you want to leave the U.S., you have to ask for permission to leave. You have to pay for documentation in order to be able to leave, and then to go to another state, or as I like to call them, plantation, and then denounce your slavery in your past plantation and say, now I adopt the slavery of this plantation.
Right. You can't just go anywhere.
So there's no contract in that.
Right. Right, but all good things, if you've ever worked at a place that you really liked the job, or like you have a circle of friends, or like people who live near you, like, community is a real thing. Community is a real thing, and what happens is communities kind of adopt their own, like, ways of living and lifestyles, and maybe not even rules, but kind of like unwritten rules and guidelines and things that you just do because it's right, and the more I thought about it, that's why I guess anarchy really appeals to me, is because, like, I have a lot of experience in these, like, communities, whether it's groups of friends. The place I work happens to be a great community of people, and it's like, we don't really have rules telling us how to act or what to do or when to do it, but shit gets done, and it gets done really well, and everyone's happy, right? And so I know that might be a little off topic, but it was just kind of breezing through my mind about how important, anarchism is community, It's
not that you all don't have rules. It's that you all don't have rulers. And so in order to be a part of that community, it's sort of understood and implied that you have to do these things. And at any point,
more understandings than rules is what I was going for. It's not like someone's writing out a set of things that must be abided by. You know what to do and what not to do.
And if you don't, somebody will address it. And if you don't abide by those rules, then the community will say, "Hey, look, you got to get the fuck out of here."
And we've had people like that who it's like, yo, this guy just doesn't get it. But he didn't stay long. Like he wasn't comfortable around a group of people who are constantly like, hey man, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And it just kind of naturally we parted ways. Like, life can work that way. Life can work that way, I think.
Right. We got 6 minutes left on the show. I was going to give my example of anarchism, an example of anarchism in our everyday lives. A good one I came up with the other day was the Android operating system for phones. I imagine that, Dan, right now you're using Android.
I am on the celly.
And so Android is very much like Anarcho-Capitalism, right? It's the platform. It isn't necessarily a system in and of itself. It's just the means by which the system is developed. So like
Oh, slow down. Android. Say all that again.
is the operating system. It doesn't necessarily come with all the apps and everything. It's just the platform by which all the apps come to the market, right? So all the people who are developing the apps to add to the Android platform are the entrepreneurs. They're the people, they're the capitalists. They're the people who are making a product, making a service that they're then bringing to market in order to compete with one another and in order to create innovations, because there's particular niches and needs that need to be met. And this platform allows for people to be able to meet those specific needs, right? So you have, let's say you get pulled over by police all the time. There's an app now on the Android system.
Not a problem for me.
Which we'll have to talk about on a later show. But you get pulled over, and now they have a dash cam app. So now you can, instead of spending $250 on buying a completely separate dash cam, now you can use your cell phone as a dash cam and as a recorder for when you're just riding along to protect you from insurance fraud, and also to protect you in case the police want to harass you or mistreat you, or at least get it on video to show that you weren't in the wrong and don't end up doing 3 to 5 years in a jail cell because a cop wanted to lie and say that you assaulted him during an arrest. So there's needs out there, and they're being met through this particular platform, and it's all voluntary. People go on, they can buy whatever app they want. They can, some people offer their apps for free, but they get money from sponsors who advertise on their app. There's a myriad of ways in which, these apps are making it to the market, in which the developers themselves are becoming famous and gaining income by creating these apps. And so it's a wonderful platform that I think highlights the anarchism that is all around us every day, and that is not allowed to proliferate. I mean, apps like Uber and apps like Lyft and Halo, they would not exist if it had not been for this platform that's allowing for anarchism to flourish all around us. Uber is a great example of anarchism. It just eliminates the state monopoly on taxis and who has taxi licenses. And, it creates that community that you talked about, Dan. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's why it's so dangerous. And that's probably why Miami-Dade police are cracking down on it, because they don't want any viable options to show that you don't need to have the police and judges and the state in order to have justice. I mean, there's a way to do it, and the free market, if allowed to, will provide it. You can't stop the market. You can't stop the signal.
I mean, they can try. They do. They do try.
They can try, but people want to be free, and they'll buy their freedom. They'll pay for their freedom.
I think people like buying weed is like the best example of like, this shit is illegal, yet there's still such a market for it because there's a demand. If the demand is there, like the market is going to go on. Like you can't stop doing it.
That's
like,
it.
I want to go to Miami just to Uber.
Yes.
That's it.
I don't even use Uber that much, but like I swear to God, if I'm in Miami, I'm using Uber.
I think it's Lyft. I think they're going specifically after Lyft.
Yeah, well, by the time I get down there, they're going to be going after Uber, so I'm going to stick with Uber. And I'm not downloading another app. I'm already running out of memory. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't get these apps.
And watch, there's going to be some app that allows you to not run out of memory. I'm running out of memory too.
Yeah, actually, so I wanted to touch on that very thing before we sign off. There's actually apps that turn your phone into a live camera, and it live feeds what's going on into, I forgot what the name of the site that actually is connected to this app, but as you're recording, it's live on the net. Now, if that's not amazing, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I think it's called Bamboozle. Well, we've drawn to the end of the show. It's 9:30. I hope that we have helped clarify for a lot of people of what anarchism means. Next week, join us, please, and we'll have some interesting topic, or we might be talking about specific events that have happened in the past week, sort of to highlight anarchism and how it could work and how it will make a situation different. For people. Hopefully, we get some reach, and you'll share the show with your friends. Thank you very much for listening to us talk about these things, and hopefully, you'll have questions for us and post them in the comment section, and we'll look at them and ask them on the show.
Or here, or here. Just click the button, right?
I think it's down here. Yeah, on YouTube where this will be appearing. So thank you, and be free. Say bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.